Oh my... That's that's the very first scene from the first episode. It was Chae Joon. He was the one that fell on top of the car. Oh, there was a note. I finally found you. Chae Joon has been looking for Dajong this entire time. Oh my god. What? Okay, they definitely answered the one question I had about episode 1. What was the reason behind the very first scene? The car, guy falls on top of a car, Dajong's narrating. That was the one question I had, and they answered it at the ending of this episode. Now everything makes sense. It was Chae Joon who fell on top of the car. Dajong's narrating makes sense now. Remember she said that she wanted to find the guy, but he wasn't there. She got the note. She went to the locker. She got the picture. She got the note that came with the picture. She went to go find Chae Joon, but he's not there. And her very last line, in the very first scene of episode 1, she says he was never there to begin with. Meaning, and thanks to the trailer of episode 3, who is the real Chae Joon then? He's not there, but he wasn't there to begin with. Yeah, that's Chae Joon, but he's not Chae Joon. I hope that makes sense. Now, I do know this. Reading the description of the drama before this even premiered, both the main characters are involved in a murder case now. Chae Joon, or maybe Chae Joon's murder 18 years ago, or both, right? So, where do we go from here? Finding out who's the real Chae Joon? Finding more information about Chae Joon's murder 18 years ago? And finding more information about Chae Joon committing suicide? Where do we go? To be honest, I don't even care where this drama goes, just as long as it's going to be exciting and thrilling and more questions and more theories, and man, we are in for it. Ooh, man, I am sweating. This shows that I am very excited about this drama. But anyway, when Dajong went to the fortune teller, and well, first she only went to the fortune teller for her friend, but the fortune teller asked for her instead. She said to her that there's something glistening in front of you, and there's darkness under your feet. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, so maybe Chae Joon is the one who's glistening. I mean, he sweet talks her, gave her a flower, try to present himself to be the guy that she can date. So there's the glistening part. And then for the darkness, in my mind, I was still thinking about Chae Joon. But when the fortune teller said there's darkness under your feet, isn't Yeong Do's apartment under Dajong's apartment? Can that make sense? But then when I saw Chae Joon outside in the parking lot looking up at Dajong's apartment, I mean, she's up there, he's down here, under your feet, the darkness? I don't know. There's one more thing I want to talk about before I go on and actually begin the review, is that one scene with Dajong's friend at the hotel. What's her name again? Yukyung? When she was talking on the phone to the client, that was hilarious. She was like, oh, I'm sorry, da-da-da, da-da-da. And then she started cursing in Korean, and then in English came out of nowhere. It's like, I'm going to kick your ass, you f***ing moron. I was like, oh, she became my favorite character. So at the beginning of the episode, it took us back 18 years ago when Yeong Do was a college student. He was at the bar with some friends, so he decided to go to the restroom. This is the same flashback that they showed us towards the ending of episode 1. And we see a young Yeong Do and a young Chae Joon in the restroom, and we see Chae Joon cleaning blood off of his clothes. And that was it for that scene. It didn't really give us more information. The only thing that they gave us was that scene was 18 years ago. So this proves that Yeong Do was definitely telling Chae Joon to stay away from Dajong because of her safety. And Yeong Do knows what Chae Joon is capable of. But then later on in the episode, we find out that Yeong Do doesn't know that the young Chae Joon that he saw in the restroom is the same Chae Joon that he knows now. And he tries to find out more information about Chae Joon. He even said to himself that the same gaze that Chae Joon gave was the same feeling 18 years ago. And it was to the point where he even asked Dajeong what high school that Chae Joon went to. And it kind of led to her thinking, oh, you must like me then, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Now, I want to go back to when Dajeong was talking to the fortune teller. Remember, she said to her that there's something glistening in front of you, and there's also darkness under your feet. At the beginning of this review, I did say Chae Joon is the glistening, and Yeong Do is the darkness, with the whole apartment thing, right? But then, I'm starting to think that maybe the fortune teller is talking about not two people, but one person. And I think that's Yeong Do. Now, there were a couple of times where Yeong Do was glistening to the point where, okay, he can be a love interest for Dajeong. But then when it comes to his darkness, I'm still sticking with the apartment. But then also, we don't know much about his past. We know he's a college student with that one scene at the beginning of this episode 18 years ago. But that's all we know. We don't know much about him. So I feel like in future episodes, we're going to see who Yeong Do really is. Now let's get to the ending, which was the shocker for me. Let's start with Dajeong. She was at work. She pulled out a napkin rose from her purse. Inside the rose was a note that says Yongsan Station 997641. When I read that, I didn't really think much of it other than it's at the station. Later on, it's revealed that it's for a locker at the station. Now, at the same time, Yeong Do is coming out of a cafe. He sees Chae Joon looking up at Dajeong's apartment. He's very suspicious about him, but then he doesn't do anything other than goes to his room. And he peeks through his window. Chae Joon is still looking up at Dajeong's apartment, but then eventually goes inside his car. Now, at the same time, Yeong Do gets a call from the cop. The cop asks Yeong Do about the picture of Chae Joon and Dajeong. He asks, hey, do you know these two? He says, yeah, I know both of them. Why? The cop says they got a tip that Chae Joon is the killer. Once Yeong Do heard that, he peeked out the window again. Chae Joon left and he decided to go after Chae Joon. First, he decided to find someone who has Dajeong's number. No one had it, so he follows Chae Joon. Now we're at the station. Dajeong opens the locker and finds that there's a music box. Then we get a scene of Dajeong and Chae Joon talking about Edgar Allan Poe's Black Cat and the music box. Dajeong says that the music box is like the black cat. It points to the real criminal and it prevents the truth from getting buried. And then we hear music being played from the music box. At the same time, we see Yeong Do following Chae Joon. At that point, we don't know where. But then when the music stopped, the music box revealed a picture. And it was a picture of when Dajeong was a little girl. And remember that boy? That boy only appeared once in the first episode. That little boy that gave Dajeong something. I forgot what it was. But at first I thought it was Yeong Do. But it was Chae Joon. Now as Dajeong was looking at the old picture, we see Yeong Do catching up to Chae Joon at the abandoned building. It's the same scene that we saw at the beginning of episode 1 where the guy falls on top of the car. It was Chae Joon the entire time. Who knows how high he was up there, but he was standing on the edge and he jumped off. After he landed, we see the black cat, just what Dajeong said. The black cat points at the real criminal. It was Chae Joon. And then we see Yeong Do witnessing this whole thing. And I'm thinking, yo, he better not be pointed as the criminal because he just witnessed this whole thing. And then after that scene, we see Dajeong walking outside. She's been traumatized. I'm pretty sure she found out the truth. And it looks like the picture wasn't the only thing that was inside the music box. It looks like there was a note there too. Now, as of right now, we don't know what the note says. But we do know at the bottom of the note, it says, I finally found you. I have a feeling it's Chae Joon. He was looking for Dajeong since they were kids. Oh, wait, I just thought of something. If Chae Joon said, I finally found you, that meant he was looking for her for a very long time, even when he was a kid. So he was always obsessive about her. And if Chae Joon was cleaning blood off of his clothes, that meant he committed the murder, and the one he murdered could have been the guy who abused Dajeong's mom and blame him for making the mom take her kids and moving out of town. Oh! To be honest, I almost dropped this drama because of episode 1. I felt like it was kind of dragging, but it did give information on our characters. but because of this episode and the ending and also explaining the first scene in the very first episode, it definitely got me curious and wanting to know where things go from here, because I know it's more than just who really is Chae Joon, and it's definitely more than just both our characters now being part of a murder case. So yeah, I'm pretty curious and wanting to see where the story takes off, pretty much. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the episode and my review. If there's anything I might have missed, please leave it in the comments below. Other than that, if you like this video, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. See ya.